Welcome to the Kayak Bass Connection podcast. I'm your host, Jared, and we are the official podcast of the Southern Illinois Kayak Club. Now, one of the things that we talk about often in this podcast is what type of sense of community we have in the club. One of the neat things about this year, 2025, coming along is we have a tremendous growth in the club with about 19 new members the last I knew. So I've asked a few of those new members to stop by the podcast so we can get to know them a little bit. So I'm very happy tonight to welcome Jeff Shere from O'Fallon, Illinois, one of our 2025 contenders for Rookie of the Year. Jeff, welcome.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me on, Jared. It's O'Fallon, Missouri, by the way.
Well, I'm sorry. I said O'Fallon, Illinois, didn't I? So how far from the state line are you? You're just a short drive, right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, we've got a couple of members from that area, quite a few actually. So, a series of questions that I want to kind of throw out to all of our new members that we get in here, just so we get to know you, and don't hesitate to ask me questions. I'll try to answer anything I can for you. But why did you get into kayak fishing, and more specifically, what drove you to join the Southern Illinois Kayak Club this year?
Well, I grew up fishing with my dad. Kind of like most guys. I'm from South Carolina, fishing with dad's, pastime and everything. Our granddad did it with both of them. And then, of course, COVID happened, and kind of woke up with a, little bit of a hangover. He just said, let's go get kayaks. And, so got lucky and found two kayaks at Academy that had just got delivered that day.
That was your dad that just said, let's go get...
This would be my wife.
Oh, your wife did? Okay.
But, so of course we bought them, and, kayaks and fishing go hand in hand. So, we got out there just a little cheap, Pelican kayaks, and, started going around places, catching fish and having a good time. But it probably, 3 months, and I knew I needed to upgrade. So, it didn't take long before I went to a more stable Outback, and, that kind of began everything. Did some online tournament, actually. Joined KMO, Kayak Anglers Missouri, last year. Only did one scheduling wise. It was just a lot going on. I heard about SIKC. Get y'all confused. I'm looking right at your shirt too.
That's quite all right.
But anyway, I bumped into a couple guys out of Peabody that were with SIKC, and they chatted with them for a minute. I couldn't tell you anything about what they were, but I almost did it last year, and this year I was like, all right, let's. I fish in Illinois more than I do Missouri. So, here we go. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, I just got a text message. I think we're going to have another guest that's going to join us online here in a second. So that's good. We'll just continue with our conversation too. So Peabody, is that strip pits? I've never been down there before.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they're over in Athens. So it's about an hour and a half. Really, well, maybe about an hour and 10, hour and 15-minute drive from over here on my side. It's probably the closest thing to a home lake I got. I fished there probably more than other places.
Now, is it just one body of water, or I've never been there?
No, I know Pyramid's on the schedule this year. It's like Pyramid, but doesn't have as many lakes. I want to say Peabody on the website says they have like a couple dozen or something, but I think, there's probably maybe 6 or 8 that you can really get in kayaks and stuff. And one of them, they stock for trout, in the fall and spring. Then the big lake at the back, it's basically like 4 or 5 different lakes back there. And it's a pretty good lake, and, had some success out there. There's some big catfish out there too.
Yeah, nice. So is that your favorite body of water to fish?
It's a tough question. It's the closest thing to a home lake, yeah, but we've actually been going to Dale Hollow Lake in Tennessee. Over like kind of end of October the past several years, and for freshwater, that's definitely my favorite place. It's super relaxing. It's quiet there. It's definitely the off season, and you can get out there and catch good fish. You can have bad days like anywhere else on a big body of water, but it's there.
Hey, there's Scott popping in.
Hello.
Hey, Scott, how are you doing, sir?
I'm all right.
Hey,
nice to
good,
see some
good.
faces.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I was just talking to Jeff here and talking a little bit about some of the lakes and stuff that he's been fishing. Now, Scott, where are you from?
I'm from Belleville and Millstadt. I grew up on an old strip mine lake.
Okay. Looks like your internet connection is kind of spotty.
Well, I just got in the house. It probably connected to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, there we go. That's much better. All right, we'll just run there. So I appreciate you joining us, Scott. And just as Jeff and I are talking, we're proud of the community at Southern Illinois Kayak Club, and we got new members. Just kind of want to introduce ourselves to them and get to know you guys a little bit. So I'm just going to go back with Jeff real quick. You were talking about going to Dale Hollow Lake, right?
Yes, sir. In kind of mid northern Tennessee at the Kentucky border, and it's reminds me of Table Rock a lot, except it's pretty sparse. I think there's like one actual house like on the whole lake, and there's several marina resorts scattered around. Fishing's great. Smallmouth bass world record came out of there. Of course, I will never touch anything like that, but the thrill of there. And
yeah,
family in Florida too. So I've got to fish inshore in Sarasota, just south of Tampa, the past couple years, and it's been really fun.
Nice. Yeah, I know that I was just at a travel show not too long ago, and there were several places from Dale Hollow, like campgrounds, things of that nature, that were advertising how great the place was. And I've never been there, but I'm really intrigued about checking it out, though. It sounds like good fishing and good facilities.
I think it's about little to a place we've been renting the past 2 years. It's a little less than 7 hours. So it'd probably be a little closer for you. Definitely a lot of country roads once you get to like kind of the last couple hours of it, but it's worth it. Fishing's good, and place it's a beautiful lake too. There's a lot to take in around there.
Yeah, nice. I definitely have to probably get more information from you on that. So, Scott, again, wanted to welcome you to the podcast real quick. So, tell us a little bit about how did you get started in kayak fishing and joining the Southern Illinois Kayak Club?
Well, I guess I've been boat fishing and just fishing off docks and stuff my whole life. So as far as having kayaks, I started specifically kayak fishing about 3 years ago. And I met up with Lee, and Lee told me the type of situation he was in. And I kind of got excited about that. I'm a competitive guy. I haven't been really too competitive. I have my kids and family and everything. So when I was a kid, I was into sports and things like that. But as an adult, I haven't been. But now I think I'd like to get back into the competitive thing that I used to like. I played soccer for 8 years.
Okay.
And I was on the swim and dive team. I've got trophies, first place and all that. Belleville swim and dive team. Pretty much, I guess that was 11 years. So I juggled the for a long time.
Oh, nice. Nice. Now, one of the things that they usually ask folks is what kind of kayak are you in?
I'm in a Sun Dolphin, a Bali 10 SS. I've got it slightly converted for kayak fishing, but I still need some more accessories on it.
I don't know. I've gotten beaten a lot of tournaments by guys that are in simple rigs, very simple rigs. And that's one of the things that I think is so neat about this sport is that you literally can have the most bare bones rig and a couple poles and still do pretty well in some of these tournaments, fishing right alongside the guys that have got, very, very decked out boats. Matter of fact, I've seen the last couple of years, we've had people do really well in simple crafts. That's refreshing. Do you have a favorite body of water that you like to fish, Scott?
Well, outside of private lakes, right?
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
say,
we all like private lakes.
well, I like Horseshoe Lake. I do like going to Kincaid sometimes, depending on the season. That water gets pretty dirty, so.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, I guess, Carlisle.
Oh, yeah.
And around here, there's Frank Holton nearby my house. I live in the Dutch Hollow area, so I'm real close to Frank Holton.
Okay. Is that a state managed lake, or I don't think I've heard of that?
That's East St. Louis Lake State Park.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's why I have.
I caught my PB carp there.
Hey, that's great. How big was it?
It was 23 inches.
Nice.
Yeah.
So,
almost 2 feet.
Yeah, that's.
This sucker was just like this big around, boy.
So you guys both kind of fish different waters and everything. If you had to pick, one bait that you think you'll have the most confidence in this coming year, is there one specific bait that you'll be planning on throwing that at some point during any of the tournaments that you participate in?
Well, I understand that there's rules with our tournament
Yeah,
fishing.
those damn rules, I tell you.
So, and since Lee has described to me some of the rules, and one thing that I've always been a big fisherman with was live bait.
Yeah, that's not gonna work in the tournament.
No, it's not. So it was years ago I used to fish with soft plastics.
Yeah.
I got away from it for a long time, and then Lee started showing me some of these newer soft plastics, and I've been tossing them all year. So I think I'm going to stick with that. Speaking of Lee, Lee here. In fact, Lee's walking in right now.
No.
Hi.
I've tried to get Lee on the podcast a couple times, and he just doesn't want to come in. So,
well, here you got him. You got him now.
So, he's the OG. What's going on, Lee? Good to see you, man. The man who takes 2 good kayaks everywhere he goes, and a nice trailer.
Yeah. Usually like to have a buddy with me one way or the other.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's got the most tricked out kayaks.
Oh, man, he does.
Yeah.
He has to lug me around.
It's always to have a friend with a boat. That's the best
right.
kind of boat to take, is a friends. So while we're on the topic of baits, so Scott was just saying how you told him that he could use live bait in our tournaments. Is that right?
With the catfish stuff, I think that it is going to be
catfish and the multi-species
month, and during the crappie may even be allowed to have some
maybe. Yeah, I'm waiting to hear the rules on that multi-species event. That's going to be interesting.
Definitely not for bass, though. He's trying to fool you. He likes to fish with a shad.
Well,
fresh shad, you can't argue it's a good bait. But
nope.
Not during.
When you look at those close to world class bass, a lot of them are getting caught on live bait.
Oh yeah.
So what about you, Jeff? Do you have a particular bait that you have most confidence in when you go out in the water?
I mean, I'm probably ride or die with finesse fishing. Either like a 5/16 or 7/16 finesse jig with like a crawl chunk, rage crawl, or something like that, or like a 3/16 swing head jig with a paddle tail, and cover water with a paddle tail and slow down with a jig, and try a few other things in between. If all else fails, I'll throw that jig until till the sun sets. See what happens.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So, so what kind of experience do you guys have with tournaments? I know Scott, you got a background in athletics and everything, but have you fished any bass tournaments before?
No, I have not.
Okay. This is a great way to get started.
I've never even been involved with anything like that. It's usually by myself or with a couple of buddies out at the lake or pond, because I got friends that out in Millstadt, they got ponds in their lakes in their backyard. Mm-hmm. So I did a lot of that. That was the reason why I bought the kayak to begin with, was to explore the nooks and crannies of private ponds that we couldn't get my bass boats in. My buddy's bass boat in.
Yeah. Well, I think you picked a really good way to start. What about you, Jeff? Have you had any experience with tournament?
Yeah, I did a few kind of random like KBF, like state challenge at a catch 22 and things like that.
That's right. You said last year you fished one of the Missouri clubs.
Yeah, I fished. I was traveling a lot last year, so the only in-person event I got to do was up at Mark Twain here, and so that was my first and only in-person event.
That's a big lake for a kayak tournament, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. A lot of water to cover. I only got to fish it really about close to the time. Like I think I went a week or it was actually 2 weeks before, but up there out of a spot, and we launched out of the same spot for the tournament. But I caught a limit for my first time, and I think I finished 19th out of 40 anglers. So accomplished my goal, catch 5 fish, and cold a little bit. So it was fun. It was a good day.
Oh, very, very well. Yeah. Most of the lakes that we go on aren't that big. Some of them are pretty busy. So is there any specific skill or technique you guys hope to improve upon during this coming season? I know, Scott, you mentioned that, you're kind of relearning soft plastic fishing.
I'm going into finesse fishing with drop shots.
Okay.
That's what I've been practicing lately. Lee and I even set up a competition out in the front yard to drop it down in a 5-gallon bucket.
So what kind of soft plastic are you going to be using in your drop shot?
Whiskers.
I have seen the fuzzy dice.
Yes.
I have those and a lot of homemade ones that I took regular soft plastics and put a bunch of little appendages through it. So I'm going to be tossing that around just to give it a shot because I did a lot of research this year on that specific lure, and it seems like it's won a few tournaments in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and how unlikely is that? I mean, when you see that bait, you're thinking, who came up with this idea? But it's been real effective, right? So a couple of the pros have won some tournaments with it, and now they're starting to get pretty popular, I guess.
So I figure I need to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome for leaving that bait right in the strike zone for the longest time. Kind of like a floating wacky worm when you flip it in there. You want to keep it, just staying in that strike zone for as long as possible is how that lure does its trick. Just small little wiggles.
And all those appendages, I'm sure, just shaking, just giving a little bit of temptation.
I was with Lee, and this was 2 weeks ago. I caught my PB crappie, and it was a yellow one that I had made homemade. I caught it on, and I caught a couple other ones, got to the boat, and they got soft mouths, so
yes,
they got away. But I almost caught my PB twice in a row. Remember that? Yeah.
The same fish, or just bumped it up?
No,
same size.
Yeah, bigger. The one that got away was bigger than the one that I pulled on board.
Nice.
Yep, all on a lure that I made.
That's awesome, man. That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Jeff, like, is there any new technique or anything that you are going to want to try to use this year?
Keep trying to improve, getting better with a jerk bait, I think. That's it's a rabbit hole to go down, but it's kind of paid off. Caught a couple nice smallmouth at Dale Hollow on them, and it's just one of them things. Once you get used to it and feel comfortable with it, they'll catch fish pretty much any time of year. I know people think of it as cold water, but I mean, I'm sure in the summertime you get a good cadence with it, burning it through the water. They'll hit it for chasing bait fish. So, just want to get confident in something other than nest jig.
Sure. Yeah. So you're a pretty experienced fisherman, and you've got it's a bit of tournament experience. But it sounds like you're really thoughtful, Jeff, on what you're throwing out there. Is there any, if you had somebody that was watching this and was thinking about getting into kayak fishing, do you have any tip or two that you think you might be able to give somebody? I know you kind of progressed into it, right? You first just woke up and decided you're going to get kayaks, and then decided let's go fishing.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'd say is safety first, for sure. Get a good, pay for a good fitting PFD, make sure you're wearing it. We used to referee roller derby years ago, and, wearing helmets is like mandatory, even for officials as well. And our saying was your helmet was your first thing off, your last thing off, because you only have one head and you want to protect it. And I've kind of followed that same thing with my PFD. Put it on as soon as I step out of the truck, and then get everything unloaded. When I'm done for the day, I load up everything, and I have to move my truck before I finish strapping everything down. I still got it on. But I'm sure we all saw about that, the post going around from Lake Moultrie in South Carolina.
Yeah, how sad.
Found an unfortunate kayaker there. After searching for a couple. Aside from the safety thing, just, I don't know, like you said, no matter what you're on, or, whether you're on a, $5,000 autopilot or a $100 Pelican, you can get out there and catch fish. And, sometimes just, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Not all the time. So
I think that's
great. I'm not an expert. I'm just,
Yeah, but I tell you, there's two really good things. If you don't get those right, you're going to end for trouble. And it still astonishes me the number of people I see on the water, even this time of year when the water's just, I mean, you're going to get hypothermia if you go in the water this time of year, unless you got a dry suit on or something. Even this time of year, it's like people with no PFDs, no life jackets on. In the summertime when we're doing the summer tournaments, you see it constantly. People out, they'll have a beer with them and they're drinking and they're in a tippy. You look at the kayak or canoe they're in, and you're like, man, that's a recipe for disaster. I'll never forget last year we had, I think it was an April tournament, early April, and a gal showed up with a paddleboard, stand-up paddleboard, and no life jacket on. Not in our tournament, she just wanted to get her paddleboard out. I'm thinking, man, if you go in, you're done. I mean, you're in trouble.
That's for sure.
Scott and Lee, how about you guys? Do you have any one or two pieces of advice that you would give somebody that is thinking of getting involved with either kayak fishing or specifically with the tournament trip?
I would say for all the new guys to really practice your using the catch board and getting your photographs done properly. If there's any point of the entire process that is the most dangerous, it's when you're measuring that fish. You can be paying attention to that fish and not paying attention to your balance. That fish could flop and knock your phone. I've had it happen to me before where I turned over my kayak because the fish flopped, smacked my phone out of my hand, and it went in the water. I chased it over in 45-degree water, and really lucky. If it wasn't for Dave Dixon, I'd probably be dead today.
Yeah.
And I lost over $1,000 worth of gear. It's just not worth it to go into it not prepared and not knowing how to use that whole photographing system properly. If you're trying to figure that out on tournament day, you're probably going to make mistakes. So it's good to be practiced at it and know what you're doing for when it really counts in the tournament.
Yeah, it's great advice. For many who don't know, Lee is the one that measures or does a lot of the judging, right, for our tournament trails. So Lee, what's the top one or two problems you see with photos?
A lot of it is mouth open.
Yep, I've gotten bit by that one before.
For any amount that the mouth is open, I have to take a deduction for it. I usually will ask the fisherman if they have another photo of that same fish that they can submit that doesn't have that, so they're not just making that mistake and losing an inch over something simple as uploading a different photo. But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. Keeping your hand placement properly on the fish and just being safe out there is pretty much my top main points of anything that I could say to help.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of YouTube videos and stuff that show you how to properly take those photographs. But definitely, we use KBF rules in kayak bass fishing, and it's on their website. There's a detailed description on their website what the rules are about hand placement and stuff. So some really good information, guys.
Hand underneath the gill plate, can't be touching the tail at any part, and the mouth has to be all the way closed. For the most part, as far as our judging goes, those are the main things that we're looking for. We're also looking for to make sure that you have the identifier photo so that we can tell that you're there on that day, submitting that photo at the right time and place. And having those bracelets is nice. One thing you have to watch out for with that is sometimes if you've got it on your wrist, you don't want to have your jacket or long sleeve shirt can fall down over your wrist and cover that, and that will completely disqualify the fish if we can't see that, or if it can't see that bracelet in the photos.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice there too. I've caught myself a few times starting to take that picture and look down my raincoat. It's covering the wristband. It's nice when they have enough that I like to. If you get two of them, I like to put one on the board.
Yeah,
probably should just put one on the board anyway. All right. So, any particular lake that's on the schedule for tournaments this year that you guys are looking forward to fishing the most?
One obvious one.
Cedar.
Yeah,
Cedar's
coming up here in less than a month.
Here's the one I keep hearing.
Yeah, I've heard good things too.
Scott, have you been on Cedar Lake yet?
I'm going to be there in the morning.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, I'm taking
4 a.m. We're going to head out.
Yikes. Very good.
It takes us about 2 hours to get down there, so
okay.
Get my day of practice in, and then next weekend is the championship.
Yeah.
So that's my pre-fishing is all I'm going to get is the one day tomorrow.
Jeff, what about you? Are you looking forward to any particular event this year?
Honestly, probably because it's the only one I've fished is Pyramid. There's, there's enough lakes out there, even if we had, 50 people signed up, but, they're being spread out. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's
I like
plenty of lakes out there that have good bass in them too. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I have the best luck out there, but I have caught some good fish on some of the lakes. And like, I think when y'all mentioned in the, schedule release podcast, if you get out and spend an hour and a half on this lake or 2 hours and, it's just not happening, you can load up, turn and drive, 10 minutes just down the road and you can be on another lake,
Yep. Don't get stuck in something that doesn't work. I've learned that the hard way multiple times. All right, guys, I want to thank both of you for taking the time to join us tonight. Hopefully, we'll have some of our other newer members that'll come online as well in future episodes. As a matter of fact, if you're watching this and you'd like to do a member profile type interview, just reach out to me on Facebook. Is the easiest way to do that. From the podcast website would be fine. Our Facebook page would be fine. So, any last things you guys want to add before we get off for tonight?
I have nothing. Tight lines, so you got y'all tear them up out there at Cedar tomorrow. I don't know where I'm going yet, but I hope I have some luck. I've had a slow start to the year, so I hope we find some big girls.
Nice. Yeah, if those guys are headed to Cedar tomorrow, there's a good chance they're gonna have a pretty remarkable day. So, all right, so don't sign off just yet, guys. But for the rest of you, hang on. We'll have another episode coming out soon.
All right. Thank you.